with that really. Did anyone use NS Notification Center this time? Okay, some of you. And did you use the new selector syntax? Yeah. So you know Xcode 7.3 introduced pound selector, and that's kind of nice because it's no longer you don't have to type the method name as a string, but you can specifically say what method to run, and Xcode will check that at build time. And it's no real problem. People run into some custom transition problem here. We'll cover that today. And do we all know the singleton thing and by now? Shared instance. Do you guys all use shared instance? And so that's good. So animation, right? I'll put this full screen. I think this may be fun to do, and we don't have to go too fast. You can follow. What we're gonna do is that we create a basic view, and we will play with this animation. And what I want you guys to think is there any kind of animation you want to do that this does not help you with? Okay? Then you have to answer me that question. Right? So let's say I'm introducing this API called UI view animate with duration. You can pass in the block and something happen. You have a lot of options here. This new Xcode now show them in the right order. In the past, it's really messy. So basically, I'll go through each one of them, and this time it won't be fast anymore. And we'll, please think of like what animation that we cannot do, right? So I created a new project. This one you can follow along with me. I think it crashed. Oh, it's still recording. Yeah, it's still recording. All right, I created a new project. Feel free to follow along. This time will be easier. You can put any image. So download an image if you want. Animation demo. Whoa, I have one same name. Animation try. All right, so with this one, I'll try without auto layout. The difference between using auto layout or not auto layout is whether you're using frame of UI view or you're using the layout constraint. And we will do it without layout to make it simpler in terms of concepts. And then if you're interested, you can try the constraint version. So I'll put a UI image view to it. Right, this time we'll do it slowly, but we'll get to ask a lot of challenging questions. I'll try to see if I can answer that. All right, I'll put an image. This is the year of the monkey, so let's find a monkey image. I think I have a monkey image somewhere. Let me see. I have it when I rehearsed it earlier. I don't know where it's there. Monkey. Oh, here. All right. You drag an image to assets. Notice it's very easy to make a mistake here. Sometimes I try dragging the images from the browser to this, and so it doesn't work. So it's crazy. I have to like delete them and then try again, download them and include them in here. So this image looks good enough. I just put it in. By now you know the 1x, 2x. Just put in 2x here if you just have one version. And I'll just turn it into an image, load it in here. Where's the image? This one, right? It's called monkey, and we add a button to do something useful to it. It's like starting to play a game, and this button, I'll say go. Again, I'm just using the standard no auto layout. So when I want to press the go button, I want to do something with the monkey, right? And the first thing is to say drag the monkey in here. By now we know we could call it image view. Don't call image view in a UI table view cell. And I call this monkey view. It's easier to see. Let's get rid of these guys. And the button, in general, button, you want it to be an action. And don't know why Xcode doesn't like to give you guys, give us anything but default. It just give any object. There's no reason we don't put any button there. If you know why, let me know. It would sound like a bug. So did select, maybe on go, right? So we say on go. And then when the button is tapped, we want this monkey to go down. And does anyone know how to do that? When I tap it, the monkey go down. Like, we set the coordinate. Yeah, so monkey view dot. So this is without LT layout. If you use LT layout, you have to use the constraint, remember? But here I use frame. And in frame, we can use something like this. Origin, Y, right? This is Y axis. And I just do plus equal maybe 300. So if I press the button, my monkey should jump down. Here's the thing. If I press go, it jumped down. So how do we animate this? The first one is to use UI. We don't need the main view anymore, right? View controller. And the first animation, most of us use a lot of time in some homework already. UI view.animate. Use the first one. And by now, our Swift is pretty good. We know that you can either pass in a block here, or you just go here, enter. The argument becomes the second block. Sounds good, but it's in the block now, so I need a self.monkey. And let's run it. And press this. My monkey is sliding down gracefully. So sometimes we need more than just that, right? We do, let's try the second one here. Animation with completed block. And this time I try to slide out faster in this block. Now there's no choice. You have to pass in animation now because this is the second argument, right? But what's the third block? What does it do here? It's check for finish. It's always true as far as I know of unless something happened, and I actually haven't run across when. Now when this is done, at the end of the animation, you have the completion block, right? What do we want to do when it's completed? So we'll print something first, and let's say I'm done. Completed, and you see that the debugger showed that I'm done here. And by now we learned a little bit about the UI animation, the block that you pass to it. These are the properties you can use to animate it. We already use origin, and I'll talk about these other things very quickly. Notice this block, you can put way more things to it. Frame.origin. Another way you can do is, so X and Y of origin is the top left of your image. It means the top left is like here, right? This is the top left. And frame.origin, if you do center, so it's like frame.center, but this is where you can also do the same thing, except that you're looking at the coordinate of the center of the image. So that may be faster for some of us, and that's okay, but these two are the same thing. I want something more interesting. So maybe, let's see, what else? What else is good? Transform? Because that could be monkey view. Say it's coming closer to us, right? So transform is where things get more interesting. So I do option click on it. Well, maybe I can try to save it first and then option click. And then Xcode doesn't like it. So, well, I'll cheat because I think I know what it is, right? and this is called CG Affine Transform. So CG probably stand for Core Graphics, but it's a standard way, the built-in way you can just run with animation, this transformation. And what I want to do is to scale it up twice, 2-factor. There are 2 functions for us to remember. One is called scale, and another called make scale. Is that okay? Well, we'll try first. Scale require you to pass in the current transformation, which is this guy. So it's just like, a equals a plus 1, right? Let's use the simpler one. I use make scale. And if you use make scale, it only requires you to pass in the dimension you want to scale in each dimension, right? X and Y. If I do this, let's see what it does. I click go, and that's pretty cute. It comes closer to us. So in I'm done here, we can do something like come here and like say hi, so it's just gonna wave at us. To wave at us, then it has to rotate to the left. And let's do this monkey thing is we're gonna rotate it. So let's see, how do we use rotate here? Rotate is also a kind of transform. And by now, if I click on this, so hopefully Xcode is nice. Whoa, not command click. Option click. If I forget what it is, right? CG Affine Transform. This is the prefix of what you need to type. So always just do that if you forget what it's called. Now, here, and then we have rotate. So I'm going to rotate the current thing, but again, I use a shorter version. If you use rotate, you need to pass in the current transform. So I'll use make rotate, make rotation, and here's an angle. Now, how do we create angle? It's a float. So for it to be consistent, we just stick with float, and float is out of pi system. So if we want 10 degrees, how do we convert that to pi system? 10 multiplied by pi. So that's the constant for pi, and then divided by 180. So if I do this, what's going on there? It doesn't like that. It doesn't know what it is, right? Maybe I just do that. So that's one way to convert it. And then it's jumped like that. And what's the problem here? We lose the current transformation, transform stage, right? That's when this one becomes less useful. You want to pass in the current stage after it just finished the transform. So I use CG Affine Transform Rotation, rotate. And here's when I pass that transform value again. Angle is just a scalar value, right? There's one value of the angle you want to go, and it's tilt. But for animation, we want to tilt it slowly. So how do we make it tilt? We apply another animation here, right? So that's pretty tricky. You want it to tilt to the left. So UI, animate, UI view, animate one more time. And here I want to maybe try something else more interesting. I use the third one, and let's try to see. New Xcode is so much better with these options. We'll try to see, right? So options in animation, there's certain option you do like curve, ease. If you read that, like it just you can define certain parameter on how animation is done, not just linear, not like a straight line kind of color change or size change. You want it to change like in a different pattern. So we'll try this guy. I'll do it, rotate slowly. There's no need for delay. And now down here, if I just enter this guy, animation option, we'll have a few things. And there are a lot of, you see how curve is in? It's cause the animation to begin slowly, speed up, and then go faster towards when it's done. So in and out, then it's slow down. So what I want here is I want to tilt to the left, and then I want to wave, right? I want to keep tilting. So there's an option here called repeat. Sounds okay? And then here's an animation block. So let's put some code in this animation block. And in completion, because I don't really care what it does at completion, I'll just put nil for now, right? Maybe nil. If I want it again, I can just add it. Does it seem okay so far? We animate one more time, and we're repeating tilting so we can say hi. What do you think will happen? Nice. Well, it's saying hi, right? But what's happening here? Why is there a jerk? Can anyone guess? Why is this monkey doing that jerk? I'll increase it to 20 degrees. How do we fix that? Down here? Who here has an idea? Let's look at the code on the left, right? It animate. This is the first position we didn't set, but it's just basically what's on the storyboard. The first transition is you animate in half a second. You change the origin down here. You make it bigger. When it's done, it animate rotating to the right, and it repeat that animation, right? So why do you see this happen? Because after it finished the animation, it has to go back to the previous position, right? So there's another option. Usually when you do option in Swift 1.2 and above, you can pass them in an array. So here there's another option called auto reverse. You want it to go to that position, but you also want it to animate coming back to the previous position, right? So that's much better. This monkey is a lot friendlier. But does anyone notice what's wrong? Is this monkey like doing exactly this? No, right? What is it doing? Halfway. Only halfway, right? So I need to take it to the previous value. So maybe before I rotate, I say, hey monkey, go to the left by 10 degrees. So this would actually be 10 degree, but I go to the left, so it's a negative value. And this is half of angle, right? So you say angle times maybe -1. Is that okay? I go to the left 10 degrees. And now after I go to the left 10 degrees, I go to the right 20 degrees, so that I will be 10 degrees to the right. So let's see. Much better because this is left and right, left and right. What's still not good about this one? Can anyone see? This is it's a little harder to see. It's almost perfect. What's not perfect? The first time it jumped down, right? Because we need to animate this guy. Because you suddenly set the position to tilt to the left. So then you can wrap this in another animation. So you can do a lot by putting things in blocks of animation. Now, that one is similar to this one, so it's not that exciting. Let's try to see if we have another animation that's useful. Animate, we already used the first one with this option. This one, completion block or just animating. If you pass nil to completion block, it's pretty much the same thing. Let's do this last one, animate with duration. Because this is so hard to do, Apple just give it to you for free. Let's do it 0.5 seconds, no delay, spring with damping. What's a spring? We have this thing, right? And damping is, the damping effect is like you collide, and then what happened when you collide? So we'll see. This string with damping is between 0 and 1. If you put a 1 to it, it just hit and then stay there. But if you put something in the middle, and it's hit there, and then it just become a spring. So it's like elasticity of the string. So I'll try it with 0.5. And I'll try this with initial velocity, put 1 for now. And here, I don't really need any option. Animations, of course. So this is our new animation block. I don't use this guy. And remember, I need this completion block. So let's put it at the end. All right. So hopefully all the indentation is great. Whoops. So I just replaced the original one with a more exciting indentation. And then, of course, I need to go down here and set it. Maybe it's done. Well, let's just do something more interesting. Let's say, whoops. What should I do here? Yeah, we should delete it. All right. Well, I wanted to have it succeeded here. And all right. Well, let's not kneel for now. I mean, I was gonna print I'm shaking, right? But all right. So delete that line. So this is the block. This one. Okay. Oh, perfect. Thank you very much. So this is the completion of the first one. Awesome. So this time I'm not too fast. So people can catch my mistake easier. So let's see this. That's a lot more exciting. It's like boom, hello, right? And maybe this is more impactful if I change this to that, and maybe the spring will be a little bit more bouncy. This is harder to use because it's like having weight to it, having friction. And in week later, we will learn about UIKit dynamics, where we can set weight and we can make this damping effect in a different way. So that's pretty much it for UI view. There's another. Does anyone notice what other call that we didn't use? We haven't used. There's another one. I type here. This one, right? Yeah. Okay, you can do this. This is when you can do like zigzag, zigzag if you want. So this is the only other thing you haven't used. Create an animation block, right, that can be used to set up keyframe-based animations for current view. If you use Flash in the past, the idea is that you still have the duration. Let's say here, 1 second. But now you have a variable. This is going to say animation, and then you can add keyframe to it. There's a add. I think you can add. Not sure how you add it. You can pass in the list of keyframe, and you can customize the animation manually, right? So when you need something, keyframe just mean all of these animation. There are only 2 keyframe, begin and end. If you use keyframe here, you can create multiple keyframes and go to one keyframe to another. Sound okay? Those are keyframe, and all the other frames are just animating frame from A to B. So I think, well, Xcode doesn't complete this for me because I haven't completed this syntax to be correct. So, nothing. And well, we skip this one because we want to cover more stuff. All right, background color, nothing interesting there. You can set the tint color or background color, and then it will we'll just set it and see what the limitation of it. It's not fantastic, but we see monkey view dot background color. UI color, by now I don't know if some of you use it, but Apple make it very convenient to use the common color in code. And if I go here, it will change transition to this, right? It's not, hey, no problem. You let me know beforehand, so it's good. All right. So content stretching the content inside. I actually haven't used that one. Bounce is the stuff around. Bounce is it's a convenient way of calling a frame. It's the rectangular. We use that later. It's just similar. So we already cover all of these guys. And to recap, if you want to use make scale or make rotation, you just pass in the variable, right, to scale. But if you use scale or rotate, you pass in the current transform, and you can do more stuff on top of it. That's just converting the degree to radius. Now, did anyone notice that we only use 2 coordinates, x-axis and y-axis? Does anyone want to use 3D animation? Have you used any iOS app with 3D animation? Which one? Which one? Anyone? Airbnb? Airbnb is one. You can do that. Now, notice this is 3D rotate here. So go back here. What Apple provide, then they hope that this is good enough for you to do a lot of things. But there's a different API. It actually comes before this API. It's called the layer, CA layer, right? Core animation. So core animation is more low level, and this layer stuff is the framework in itself that's included. It just includes way more API calls for you to do animation stuff. So if I click here, that's not a good way to get Xcode to give you what you want. CA layer. So the same idea. And you can do transform. You see that? And you can do now it's 3D. So the layer contains just a lot more functions, right? But then the layer and the frame stuff outside, they have the same kind of X and Y. But layer now you can have the Z layer. A lot of time in our code, the Z layer is taken care of us. If you do add subview, it always put you to the front of the view, and that's the Z layer is in front. So you don't care about it. But if you like to use it, that's when you can use easily with CA, transform, 3D rotate. And so that's the difference. If you want to use core animation instead of core graphics, and because you do 3D, that's the idea of perspective transform. Perspective here means, this is just flat, right? Perspective when you start seeing things like this, and you can have maybe two controller, and you can make this one tilt like this, open out, instead of just swipe left and right. And sometimes it's hot, it's the new thing, and then nowadays we also have flat UI, and no one cares about 3D stuff. Custom curve is another way where you can define the curve. If you look into animation, Bezier curve, fun stuff. You can define a curve for it to slide along. What we've done so far, it's just a path, right? And you say, I'm here at this coordinate, I go here, y plus 300, it means I go vertically down. It's just a straight line. You can have ease, curve ease, it means you can change the speed of animation. Go from here, instead of zzz, you can do like zzz, or like zzz, and then slow down again. But what if you do like fancy fun stuff? You say, go from A to B using this mathematical formula. It's a quadratic equation instead of a linear equation. Then you can go there. And with the curve, and it allow you to do it along the path. So with this one, I'm not even, I haven't even done this myself to see how it's done. But that's, if any of us is interested, we can try that. So one useful thing for a lot of your code is this spring animation. Don't overuse it. If you use it once or twice in the app, it can be pretty cool. And keyframes, that's when you use add keyframe, and then you can set the time. First keyframe is at 1 second. Second keyframe is at 0.75 seconds, something like that. All right. So gesture is the next thing, and how many gesture do we have on iOS? A gesture recognizer. How many? 8? Yeah, so, it's 7, but again, so with this animation, if you think of anything you want to ask, how can I animate this way? We can try to find the answer. Now let's look at gesture. What are the gesture we have done so far, guys? Tap? Have you used pinch? No, right? Pen? Swipe? So in your mail app, if you swipe to the left and you see a few things there, what gesture is that? What gesture is that? It's pen. So swipe. If you look at this guy, it's very confusing, but swipe, it just record from A to B. That's why you see these two lines. And pen it check every single time. Right? So most of the time it's actually pen, not swipe. You slowly drag something, you can do animation. The reason why we learn it together is when you pan, you can animate. So let's try to do something with this guy to get an idea, to learn about the API of the gesture. So I go back to the storyboard and I add the first one. Where do I add the gesture? Let's add to the monkey. All right. So I add this guy, drop it here. Now there's a problem. Some people don't like the storyboard gesture recognizer at all because anything you add is at this root level. It doesn't go in here and tell you that this guy is with this guy. It's hard to see. It's really easy to add gesture in your view, in View.Load and everything if you want. After you add the gesture, it's also here. And you can tell what type of gesture it is. So that's the tap. Now how do I trigger something when you tap? Control drag? No, right? Where do I drag? You can drag it this view, right, from here, or you can drag it from here. So I drag the first one, so let's say on tap, and be careful, you actually most of the time you want the action. And again, if you don't really care, the argument sender can be like that, or you can send a specific gesture, which is tap. And I'll show you why this is more useful. Great. So in tap, what is in this sender that is useful? Right? Someone asked me in last homework, you guys a tap gesture. What did you use last time? Excuse me. What did you use? If you want the element you tap on, what was that? Sender dot view. If you tap on the monkey, then you obviously can say let, monkey. Of course, in this case it's stupid because I have monkey up there as, right, UI image view. So you can do that. So there's one call that send.view, sender.view. Anything else? So there's one, the first most important is location of the tab. And you want to translate it to the coordinate in the entire screen. So here you actually say sender location as a function here, location in view. And you pass in the super view here. It's a view. View is just the container of this controller. View is this guy. Of course, you can name it anything you want over here. Container view or anything you want. But view is that guy. Obviously, by now, if I name it like that, it will be very confusing. But yeah, so that's location. Anything else you need to know when you tap? That's it, right? So I'll just say tapping at this location. Well, you can type that or you just pass in as a second argument. But tap is not that interesting. Next, we'll look at the second one. We'll look at pen. Pen is the most interesting because I have pen now, so that's pen. I can't just control, I have to control drag, right? Let's see, on pen, one more time, action. And it's annoying, but you select it here. The reason I select it is because so I can do autocomplete on sender dot something, right? Sender dot location in view. So now I have the view, right? That's the location. But that's not enough. When you pen, what else do you want to know? Huh? The endpoint, yeah, that's a good way. So, good one. So we'll look at this one. I'll just go straight to this guy, view controller. Whoops. So let the three things you have here for free: translation in view. Notice this is because this is UI pen gesture recognizer. You can't do this up here because it's a different subclass, right? And the last one is actually velocity. This is cool. Because if you swipe to the right or the left, you swipe to the right, you get positive x velocity. You swipe down, you get positive y velocity, right? So sender dot translation, what's that? Velocity in view. So in some other ones, you're like, oh, in tab, if only I can have it. It doesn't make sense, right? So you can print these three guys: location, translation, and velocity. To make this tab useful, there's one more thing that tab you don't care about. I think you just mentioned at the end, right? So that's called state. State is a variable of GUI recognizer state. And, well, there are a lot of value in here. So you can actually check the 3 values you want to know is, again, it's an enum type, UI recognizer state. So you can start typing. You can do this if you want to know all the possible value. UI, what is it? Gesture recognizer state dot. Right? These are the things you can have. But the only thing you care about is usually, right? Cancel maybe began, ended, and change. And you may always write the same code. You can use a case statement if you want. But this code, you write almost all the time when you do your gesture, right? Equal. And then this will be if sender.state is, what's the last stage? Ended. So we'll put a print statement. What's that? Changed. Over here will be began. And over here will be ended. Right? I'll comment this out. I'm going to run this. Why is it causing an error? Whoa. Is the syntax correct? 2 equal, right? Okay. I just did functional programming in the weekend, and equal actually means equal. All right, so with this guy now, I should be able to drag it, but I can't. Does anyone know why? This was also another thing we run into a lot. It's like, I forgot to set this image to be draggable. UI interaction draggable. And here's another cool thing actually, the touch. When you do the tap gesture recognizer, you can actually click on this one very quickly. You can do how many tap? Double tap, triple tap up here. You can try it yourself, double tap or with 2 fingers or not. All right, with this guy, I just turn on UI interaction, and let's see what it does. Where's my, right? I can drag this guy. You see, change, a lot of changed, and then it's ended. So now it's time to do some UI. Well, we can do animation, but let's skip animation. Let's move as you pen it. How do we move it, guys? Like when we change, right? In here, when we change, we move the guy. So self dot monkey dot. All right, 2 ways you can use origin, frame.origin, or you can use center. And you'll see the different location dot, maybe location, right? So this means it's assigned both the X and the Y with it. So I drag this guy, and it's moving. So that's cool. When you first click on it, I don't care about updating the position. So I'm about to move, and look at the change, right? Begin, right? It began, and I changed, and it's setting the position. So that's state, and that's location in view and everything, right? The next one is useful here is, let's pinch. What's new in pinch? What do you think we need in pinch? Zoom factor, yeah, zoom. So I'm dragging this here, and let's do it real quickly with on pinch. Wait, what happened there? Of course, I was trying to drag. The pinch is here, right? This guy's the pinch. Drag from here to here. On pinch. And I wish this guy stay. Action. Alright, so there's one more API method here. Is this on pinch? Okay, where is it? Here. It's sender.scale. And it's just one value. Apple normalized it for you to make it simple. They don't have X and Y axis. It's just whatever direction you pinch, that's the factor. So I'm just gonna say this is my scale factor, but now I have to animate. I have to transform it. So you can animate if you want, but let's say I'm just going to transform directly. How do I transform it? Self.monkey view.transform CG what? Affine transform make scale, and this is scale. So if it works, it should allow me to scale. But how do I pinch on a simulator? All right, so option key allow us to have these things, right? When you option, so I go up here, it's actually pretty hard. So I move. Now when you do that, how do you move? You press shift. When option only allow you to do this and this, but then you press shift and then you go up here and you pinch. Well, that I'm just moving, I'm not pinching. So shift go up here and then oh my god, let's turn off the location change here. What do you think? What happened there? Are we scaling it correctly? Let's see, right? So go down, put the two fingers together, go up here, and oh, I think I'm not pinching correctly. So go down, shift, right? So you just basically drag up and down, and this is how you pinch your object. And now you can pinch and drag. You add the techniques to it. So in each of these guys, it's just you can check into the gesture recognizer and find what variable is useful for it. So I don't know how to do the 3D touch, force touch. We can't do it on the simulator either. All right, so two types of gesture is discrete or continuous. Who here can guess what discrete means? Guys, come on, discrete. Discrete integer means, the integers are discrete, 1, 2, 3, 4, and float numbers are not discrete, right? Continuous. So that's like math back in the day. By the way, because this code you write so often that I actually do this. I click this here, and then you select, and then drag it down here, and then you do like sender, pinch stuff. And every time you go here, you drag it out, you have your own code. It's called snippets. All right, so look at these 7 guys. You can tell which one is discrete. Tap is it discrete or continuous? Discrete, only one state. Pinch, continuous, because you have begin, change, ended. Of course, cancel if you want. Same thing, rotation. This one, continuous. This one is discrete. Notice the 2 line. Swipe is only left and right. And as soon as know that you're swiping to the left, and it just do that. So the rest of these guys is, and then this one, it's great, right? Well, long press, there's a timer until there, you press it, and then it just triggered that once. All right. So that's all about view animation. The controller thing is interesting because you can totally implement your own tap view controller, hamburger controller. Let's see at the time. So we'll take a 5-minute break, and then we'll do a group activity. And if we have time, we can look at tap view controller. I'll give you an overview. If you want to do a walkthrough, we'll do this. But if you don't want, we spend the whole hour on group discussion. Okay, 1 second before we go out to, this is what I was going to cover. Everything will be manual. You create your own tab by just UI view, and you add your own button here. And then you can create this controller thing. Let's say each view is one screen you want to look at. Their controller, but you don't really go there directly. I'm not using segue because you're not moving from this controller to this controller. What you want to do is you keep this tab bar, you only change what's in here, right? So you can swap the view of the parent controller with your child controller. So you can change it. And that's like, whoa, that's kind of crazy. That's like iframe. But then iframe is stupid because you don't have control over it. So with iOS, it's cool because you can actually have a lot of control. iOS allow you to declare things as your child controller, and you can say when you add it to parent, when you remove it. That's all you need really if you figure out the life cycle of a controller and then life cycle of your children controller. A controller life cycle means it will have view did load, view will appear, view did appear, and then view will disappear. They used to have view did unload, and then they think that's stupid, so they move it. It's no longer possible. But when your parent use the child, you can use the view. But the parent controller doesn't know it. So we can walk through it. It's quite simple, but if you follow this, then you can do the homework hamburger yourself. And if you can always run it and go to Wantedly CocoaPod and download the hamburger menu. So after this week, you can implement anything that's like that you like, from the app. If you like, what is that? You can call it like slide menu. Slide menu. That's one way, right? Or hamburger. And it's called hamburger because people like to put the three line there, right? It looks like a hamburger, right? So and check that out. Some of these hamburger have 3D effect. So when you implement this yourself, the most important thing is to try to make it similar to what Apple does with UI tab bar controller or navigation controller. The parent controller will always have this array called view controllers, the list of children. Then you just add more controller to it, it just works beautifully. So it's really nice if you try to do it yourself here. So that's the extra work that I think we will not do if we don't have time. We will spend time now, divide people into groups after the break, and we pretend we work on a project and do some wireframe together and scope the project. So write some user stories and then do some wireframe. Yeah. So of course it sounds obvious, but I think it's a useful exercise, and it's one last time to run into someone interesting in your group. Last time, Victor, it's your fault. You only meet 5 people because you didn't. And my algorithm broke. But you can break it. You can say, no, I'm going to a different group. All right, let's take a 5-minute break, and then I'll divide into groups.